Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. Today I got another fragrance review for you guys. And for those of you who, I know I got like 1,300, 1,400 videos. The channel's got a little bit of everything. And for those of you guys who haven't checked out my content on fragrances, definitely check it out. Remember, fragrance reviewing is even more subjective than like watch quality or the quality of, different leather jackets. Fragrances are totally, the beauty's in the eye of the beholder on these. So I'm going to give you guys my impression or my interpretation of this fragrance I just picked up. Not a lot of guys reviewing this on YouTube, and this is one of those, I don't know if it's called a hidden gem, I don't know if you'd call it I don't know what you'd call it, but I'd say it's a really great performing, great quality fragrance in the $20 price range, and that is Mocha Wood. So this is another Amazon special. This is by, I think this is by Fragrance World. And Fragrance World's kind of a newer company, at least to my knowledge, starting to kind of come on the scene. We have brands like Lattafa and what's some of the other, Maison Alhambra, these clone of cologne companies, and they probably make their own, I think they might make their own, original creations as well, but they make amazing fragrances. And really, a lot of fragrance reviewers will tell you, always buy what makes you happy. And I'm going to tell you the same thing. But in all honesty, when it comes to fragrances and when you spray them on your individual skin, there always going to be slight variations, But don't get it twisted. Like, just because, like, a guy may spray, two guys may spray fragrance on each other, right? Not at the same time, that'd be weird. But let's say both guys are wearing the same fragrance. I don't think you're ever going to get such a difference based on skin chemistry that you would say, oh, that doesn't even smell like that fragrance. I think when people say that, they always say, oh, fragrance guys always say, oh, it smells different on everybody. It's very subtle. And I don't really think that you're really necessarily smelling the difference of the fragrance, but I think you're mainly smelling the kind of the combination of the person and what they would smell like without wearing anything, right? And the fragrance, right? So that, and remember, a lot of times, just because you spray fragrance on one individual, like, their body chemistry doesn't change the fragrance. So just get that. I know some of the fragrance experts out there will disagree with me, and a lot of you guys who review fragrances will disagree with me. I don't believe that at all. I believe that when you spray fragrance on individuals, their normal skin, however they normally smell, right, is going to determine how the fragrance might perform and smell. So if you're wearing like lotion, even if it's unscented, that's going to change how the fragrance sticks to the skin, right? And that might amplify the longevity, right? You're making it more oily, right? It's not going to wear off as much. You're giving it something to bond to, like a primer. Think of lotion as like a primer for cologne. When it comes to, folks, whether you use a specific type of soap, shampoo, hairspray, all that's going to just kind of blend in together, and what people perceive is the cologne, when really it's a couple things layered together, right? So that's my opinion. Laundry detergent's a big one, right? So I'm going to give you guys what I think about these. Now, I did spray two fragrances on my wrist, my arm and wrist today, because I was kind of disappointed with this one when I first get it. And this is kind of, I don't know if you're like me, but when I get a fragrance, sometimes it takes a few wears to really be able to know what I'm getting from it. And one thing I find really annoying about a fragrance, and this is not to necessarily blame the company, but or any company for that matter. It's just I get really disappointed when I buy a fragrance, even a cheapie like this for 20 bucks, and I get it and I wear it, and I'm like, all right, this smells exactly like something else I have. And I feel like sometimes a lot of these other fragrance companies are making these inexpensive fragrances. They do it just slightly different, when really this might be a legitimate clone of another fragrance. And I'm going to give you guys what I think that clone is. Now, other guys reviewed this, and everything gets hyped because it is so subjective. Guys will say, oh man, this is beautiful. And this is a nice scent, right? But you've smelled it before, right? So, all right, so let's talk about the presentation. Kind of like a velvety kind of cardboard. Mocha Wood Eau de Parfum concentration. Great longevity, great projection on this. It's a quality juice. It's got staying power. I sprayed this on like maybe a couple hours before shower. Took a shower, got out, I could still smell it. This is going to get you, in my opinion, This is going to be pretty broad, but I would say 15 to 20 hours on this. It's definitely got the staying power. I sprayed it yesterday. I could smell it this morning. Say 12 to 15. Let's be more realistic, right? But that doesn't mean you necessarily won't smell it. It's great. It's a good quality juice. As far as the notes in here, they don't list them on the box, but I'm going to read them. I picked this up on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. And let me give you a little bit of backstory. When I first sprayed this, I got a totally different impression as when I wore it the next day, and of course the third day, and of course after it really dried down. So, alright, so Mocha Wood, what would you expect out of this, right? Mocha Wood, right? I don't get a lot of mocha in this. I don't get a lot of coffee. Some reviewers have said, oh, it's heavy in the chocolate, and that was kind of what I was looking for. To be flat out honest, if you haven't checked out the brand, oh man, Steven's brand, or Steven from Red Essence is involved with, oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on Navitus. He sent me a sample pack, and the fragrances, at least for the pack he sent, are absolutely stunning. Amazing quality, amazing longevity. It's what you look for in high quality fragrance, right? You know, 2 sprays, smell it next morning. Fantastic. And so a lot of the ones that he sent me are very gourmand. So I'm kind of on the hunt now for some gourmand cheapies. And this is kind of gourmand in my opinion, but I don't get the heavy chocolate note, the heavy mocha, the heavy coffee. I just don't really get that at all. Like I have Mocha Valentino. You get heavy coffee and mocha in that. You're not going to get that with this, in my opinion. Let me just give you guys the notes here. Now I'm going to have to go to a different website because I was on the Amazon listing and they don't have the notes on the Amazon listing, which is extremely annoying. They describe this as a unisex, warm, spicy, amberish fragrance. Let me see if they actually have it on. Let me go to the Oud store and see if they. I don't see an actual website for Fragrance World. Maybe I'm just missing it here, but they state nothing. So the Oud store doesn't have any notes either. I did pick up some notes that this is. Whoops, this is here. Probably should have did this before I started the video, but who cares? You guys ain't doing anything. Fragrance World. Okay, so here's what Rio Perfumes has listed. This is from overseas somewhere. It says here that God, pop-ups on every website. It says here the top notes are coffee, hazelnut, saffron, ylang-ylang, and rhubarb. Middle notes are going to be rose. Let me keep you guys engaged. There it is. The beautiful presentation of the bottle. I mean, extremely light. You would think boozy, boozy, boozy. It looks like a flask. Very cool. You know, I'm not going to go and tell you grown men about, oh, the cap is so nice. Like, it's a fucking cap, right? Who cares? Middle notes are rose, tobacco, tonka bean, patchouli, and sandalwood. The base notes, cyan benzoin, fir resin, Indian oud, and gaiac wood. So, what do I get from this? So, when I first, full disclosure, when I first sprayed this, they delivered it really late, and I already had on Ferragamo F Black, and I put it on top of that, and so I was getting kind of like a real mix there. First, I thought I was really heavy on, and I'm not going to paint this picture. There's cologne reviewers out there that I watch that, like, you can see them looking up at, like, something, and they're, like, kind of like I'm doing with the screen, but they're really taking you on this journey, and it's just, to me, it's kind of false. Because they're like, it's going to open up. They describe like this picture. You get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's like, dude, you cannot smell all that. Like, don't fucking lie to everybody. So I'm just going to give you guys what I get from this. I don't really get a heavy coffee vibe. And for something called Mocha Wood, you would think you would have a lot of wood and a lot of mocha. I don't consider this a really woody fragrance. I don't get a lot of mocha. What I do get with this is a reminder of another fragrance, and that is Ferrari Oud. Ferrari Essence Oud. Now these two, I have these sprayed. I have this one on my wrist, this one on my arm, and to me, you definitely get, on the initial first spray, okay, they're very, very similar. Why, I don't know, because they don't really, they share a few ingredients, but not enough for me to say, oh man, this is a clone of one or a clone of something else. That, like, let's say Ferrari Oud is meant to be a clone of this fragrance, like this one's cloning Ferrari Oud, and then they're going to be within the same kind of ballpark, right? I don't really see any of the notes that really do that for me, because when I do see something like a real layering of notes, a real similarity in notes, I generally wouldn't buy this if it's going to be something that I already have, unless I absolutely love it and it's starting to get low. The Ferrari definitely has a woody note to it. A lot more wood, a lot more oud, and it's very subtle. It's not like a skanky oud. It's a beautiful fragrance if you haven't got this one. I haven't worn it for a while, and I kind of forgot about it. When you spray the Mocha Wood, again, in the beginning, you get, I thought this was a clone of Ferrari, like they're the same fragrance in a different bottle. But as you start to wear the Mocha Wood, what I get from this, and it's, to me, that's what this is really meant to clone, regardless of the notes that are listed, is Baccarat Rouge 540. It smells exactly like Baccarat Rouge 540 if you just give it a little time, right? It'll start to kind of turn from Ferrari Oud pretty quickly within about 10 minutes and start to take a change. Side by side, pretty close. Once it starts to dry down in those first 10 minutes, it starts to slowly progress to a Baccarat Rouge 540 clone. After about an hour, that's what you're going to get. It's going to last. It's going to stay on your skin. It's going to really project for hours. Like I said, I sprayed this last night. I woke up, smelled my arm, still pretty strong scent. More of a, I'd say, kind of not necessarily just a skin scent, but pretty close to it at that point. But definitely a great fragrance. Don't get me wrong. It's just when you buy something that says Mocha Wood, what I expected for a Baccarat Rouge 540 clone, and again, this is subjective, this is my nose, you may get this and think something totally different, but when I smell this, once it dries down, that's all I get, is Baccarat Rouge 540. And to me, I wouldn't have bought it just because I already have a Baccarat Rouge 540 by Alexandria, amazing clone of that fragrance. And let's face it, you know, when we wear fragrances, I don't think we necessarily wear fragrances because of what they're going to smell like, you know, in the dry down. We really want fragrances to kind of like remain how they smell in the opening. There's no point in spraying a fragrance and having you love it in the first 10 minutes and be like, ooh, it's different, this is great, I don't have anything like this, and to have it change. To me, Baccarat Rouge is kind of powdery. Now that may be the wrong word to describe what I smell, but I definitely, to me, Baccarat Rouge definitely has like a powdery kind of vibe to it. And if we just look at Fragrantica real quick here, and see, and again, you're gonna get so many different people. There's really no guarantees that you're gonna like anything, and this journey is more about the fun of like getting something and then seeing what you get when you get it, right? Because in all honesty, you just can't really depend. Like some people will say this certain fragrances smell like Creed, and I'm like, or like Aventus, not this, I'm just saying, but like, you know, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be a Creed Aventus clone, and you get it, and you're like, what? This doesn't smell anything like that. So everybody's nose is different, and you know, I definitely recommend wearing things a few times before you really decide whether you're glad you purchased it or not. I gave it 3 times, and after that, I'm kind of like, all right, you know, I wouldn't have bought this, right? So that doesn't mean you shouldn't. If you don't have a lot of fragrances in your collection and you're looking for something that does give you that Baccarat Rouge 540 vibe with a way different opening, I would definitely give this a go, but you're not going to get mocha and wood, at least that I get. I don't consider this a heavy wood fragrance, you know. Not saying you don't get some wood, but it's not like you think mocha wood, that you're just going to get chocolate and wood, and you really don't. And so when we look at the notes, if these notes are even correct on these, we look at kind of the comparisons between the two fragrances. The similarities are going to be that saffron, and maybe saffron is such a, you know, I've never smelled saffron all by itself, so maybe saffron is so strong that that's like the real player in Baccarat Rouge, and that's kind of what my mind's associating this with. But you do get the saffron, you do get wood, right? And so we have Gaiac wood and Indian oud, whereas I don't really get oud out of this, and Baccarat Rouge has cedar, so I would almost say that this more has a cedarish note. Remember, other notes can layer. They can combine different notes to mimic other notes. So just because it doesn't have cedar doesn't mean that if you combine, you know, sandalwood and tobacco, you're not going to get a cedar vibe. Just kind of keep that in mind. So again, I don't mean to sound like, oh, these notes are totally different, so they shouldn't smell like. That's not how it works. It's just like when chefs make something in the kitchen. If they don't have a specific spice, they can kind of sometimes combine different spices to maybe mimic that spice, right? So that's kind of where I'm going with this. So what else do we get? We get, again, we have fir resin and cedar in the base notes on Baccarat Rouge. In the base notes, we have benzoin, fir resin, Indian oud, and Gaiac wood. So we might have those sandalwood, Indian ouds, and Gaiac woods, and that fir resin. You know, if most of a fragrance, let's just say, you know, we don't know the distribution of these notes, right? So if Baccarat Rouge is heavy on, let's just say for a second, it's heavy on saffron and really heavy on like the fir resin, and so is Mocha Wood, it doesn't really necessarily matter that you have other notes in there if there's just a smidge. It's just like if I were to go make like a dish, right? And I go ahead and add a pinch of black pepper or a pinch of, let's say, like white pepper. I can taste the difference between the two, but only if there's enough in there to really taste it, right? A pinch you're not really going to notice unless you have a really defined palate, right? Like if you're a professional chef, which I'm not. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with this. When you have the middle notes on rose, you know, rose and what else we got? Patchouli, maybe ylang ylang, maybe the layering of those different notes might mimic jasmine as found in Baccarat Rouge. So just kind of keep that in mind. To me, to my nose, yeah, I mean, once they dry down within about 5 to 10 minutes, there's a distinct difference between the two. But again, the Mocha Wood, in my opinion, definitely leans towards a Baccarat Rouge 540 clone, which is kind of disappointing because it just would have been nice if they called it like, you know, I don't know, Wood 540 and they made it red or pink, reddish. You know, then people kind of know what they're getting. But I think if you have Baccarat Rouge 540, which is such a popular fragrance, and you have a lot of clones of that, you know, I think if you like it, you'll definitely dig this. But if you already have it, you know, some folks, especially if you're in the fragrance community and you collect a lot, it's like watches, you know, we're addicts, right? And so, you know, you just are always on the hunt for something new and something different. And you get, if you're like me anyway, you get excited. You're like, all right, I'm going to go out. My day's off. I'm going to wear my new fragrance, maybe a new watch. It sucks to get something you're like, all right, I already worn this. Like, the thrill is gone. You know, it's over. But that's not to say you shouldn't buy this. It is a quality juice. And it's not, again, it smells great. Don't get me wrong. Love it. Wore it again last night after a nice fresh shower. And didn't overdo it on the trigger. 3 sprays, chest, both pits of the joint of the arm here in the elbow. And it projected nicely. It smelled great. I don't think anybody's going to smell this and not like it. I threw some on before I went to the bank, and you can just, you know, nobody complimented me on it, but I think it's definitely a fragrance that most people are going to like, but that is very subjective. But again, if you have fragrances that are similar to Baccarat Rouge 540, then I probably, and you look for different, I probably wouldn't get this. This one is not on Fragrantica yet, where folks can chime in and say what they think it smells like. We have folks on, and again, Fragrantica, keep in mind, it's a tool, right? We have people compare, and this is, you know, pretty broad, like pretty large amount too here. We have people compare Baccarat Rouge 540 to Ariana Grande's Cloud. I have the Cloud body spray, very similar, definitely get that vibe, definitely agree with it. And then you have folks who compare Baccarat Rouge to Red Temptation by Zara. What else we get here? Oh, I can't. We got an ad popping up here. What the hell? Ads, man, everywhere. What else we got here? What is this one here? We have a Fiorentino Tizzina. I never even heard of that. There's so many fragrances there. Let me see if I can find something like here. This gets a lot of reviewing in the fragrance community. Amir Oud Rouge Al Haramain. 335 people say that smells like Baccarat Rouge. Only 32 say it doesn't. Another one here, Club de Nuit, Untold. You know, usually when you get that many people kind of all agreeing, safe to assume it does. And then you get some that are like, when you start seeing a good balance between the two, I think that's where it gets really subjective, where you see, you know, 200 people saying it does, 180 people saying it doesn't. You know, you're just going to have to make up your own mind and buy it. But again, yeah, the total difference between the Ferrari Oud. So anyway, just kind of keep that in mind. Just want to throw it out there. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to ask. But there's not a lot of people reviewing this, so I wanted to throw it on there. And anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a fantastic day, and take care.